The big problem with Democrats trying to offer up gun solutions is that they probably have never even touched a gun, let alone used one. And I'll be the first to say I have only a few times ever actually fired a weapon. I went to a range once to cover a story, and I went through a basic training session for a local police department. And I did this specifically because I feel like if I want to be covering these issues, I have to have some experience, right? And it's not even enough to be fair. I routinely get a lot of people correcting me on various gun issues because I'm not it's not. Look, I can tell you everything in the world about skateboarding. We'll put it that way. You want to talk about skateboarding, I'll correct you in 2 seconds. Guns, not so much. Well, Joe Biden is the perfect example of somebody who thinks they have a solution and they really don't. Joe Biden doesn't know how guns work because Joe Biden, kid you not, suggested that when he's elected president, like I should say, his plan after if he gets elected president is to have police shoot people's legs. Oh, that's your solution. Shoot their legs. That is the stupidest thing. Even I know that's stupid. All right. Listen, people can die when you get shot in the leg. Like what does he think is going to happen? There's going to be like firing at the ground. That's not okay. Let's read this because they explain it better than I do. From the National Review, they say, Joe Biden can best capitalize on the rioting following the death of George Floyd in the same way he can best capitalize on anything in 2020, by keeping quiet and out of sight. Unfortunately for Biden, he does occasionally show up and say things, and then this happens. He suggests that police should be trained, that if cops are rushed by unarmed persons, they could, quote, shoot them in the leg instead of the heart, is a very different thing. This is bad advice that would get people killed. People do have a variety of tools of non-deadly force at their disposal, tasers, rubber bullets, although some of those too can be deadly in some circumstances. Floyd, after all, was killed by a man's knee. But anyone who has been trained in police work or the military could tell you, firing a gun is always potentially deadly force. You shoot for center mass to kill, or you don't shoot at all. If you're not prepared to kill someone, you should not even point a loaded gun at them, much less fire it. If you don't have the grounds to shoot to kill, you don't have the grounds to shoot. There are all kinds of things that can go wrong by trying to shoot to wound, because most people are not expert marksmen, and even expert marksmen do not have the greatest of aim in chaotic circumstances. You can miss, and the person you're shooting at isn't stopped. You can miss and hit and kill an innocent bystander. You can hit somebody in an artery, and they can bleed to death. You can be thinking shoot to wound, but the second radio car responding to the scene rolls out thinking firefight in progress and opens both barrels. The police sometimes shoot people they shouldn't, but this is the wrong way to try and change that. If anything, studies have not supported the claim that police shootings are racially disproportionate. There may be a stronger claim for racial disparities in the use of other forms of force, as in Floyd's case. One thing police training gets right, though, is that it draws a clear line around firing your gun only when you are prepared to kill. Blurring that line is only going to make things worse. I defer to the examiner. I'm not a gun person. I do know a few things that I was taught when I was little. Fortunately, I guess because my dad's a Marine, he knew to tell me very basic things. And even then, I didn't grow up around weapons. For one, he said, if you ever find a weapon, it is loaded. And I said, well, no, I mean, it could not be. He said, no. Always, no matter what. A lot of these people don't really understand any of these basic points. Like, you don't put your finger on the trigger and you keep the weapon pointed down. And yes, like this, you don't shoot to wound. Or you're right. It's either you're intending to end someone or you're not at all. But before we get started, I've got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, BioTrust. Head over to healthwithtim.com or click the link in the description below, and you can get 51% off BioTrust's ageless multi-collagen supplement. That's right. I am officially now selling supplements, but to be fair, I am a 34-year-old skateboarder. I only like promoting things I actually use, and I actually take BioTrust. It's pretty great. The cat apparently likes it. There's cat bite marks all over it for some reason, but I do. I skate every day. I mix it in my smoothies because I need it for my knees, my joints, my muscles, my tendons. So I'm trying to do the best I can to stay healthy. But collagen is good for a lot of other things too. It's good for your skin. It's good for your hair, which admittedly don't have a lot of, but I do have this excellent beard. But more importantly, it's good for strong, healthy muscles, tendons, ligaments, and bones. And that's really, really important to me. If it's something you think is great for you, click the link in the description below. Check out healthwithtim.com and you can get it for 51% off. But let's get back to the story. There are arguments about real reform, like perhaps I've seen some inventions. There's one where the cop can put this red cap on the front of a weapon, and when you fire it, it makes the first round out of a gun less lethal. Now, people have talked about how that's a potential reform. They could buy these things and then they could hold one, but they have tasers. Look, cops have tasers. They also have beanbags. They have other weapons they can use in certain circumstances. Maybe, people just want a magic solution that doesn't exist. Don't ask me. I don't really know. But of course, Joe Biden is getting dragged for more than just this. And, this one, I'm sorry. I got to bring this one up. Ex-Sanders aide sarcastically calls Biden, quote, king of the black people, asks why hasn't he put an end to the riots? Because Joe Biden doesn't know what he's talking about. Joe Biden offers up solutions that are completely meaningless and actually dangerous. Let's read this. This is from, what's her name? Brianna Joy Gray. Bernie Sanders, former press secretary, mocked Joe Biden on Monday, calling him king of the black people and asking why he hasn't put an end to the riots. The way the press talked about him, you'd think one statement from Biden, king of the black people, could put an end to all this. Brianna Gray on Twitter. Wonder why it hasn't worked. Gray has repeatedly lambasted Biden since Sanders suspended his campaign. She called assault allegations against the presumptive Democratic nominee credible and said the media has never focused on his vulnerabilities. No, they want him to win. Joe Biden apparently went out to these riots, these protests. Joe Biden is just out of the game, man. Does he even matter at this point? Look, Trump is the president. Trump is likely going to win re-election. Trump is talking about the governors being weak and the National Guard coming in, these people getting arrested, facing 10 years in prison and all these things. I tell you what, man, that's what America wants to hear. They really do. Now, the media, that's Trump's true adversary. Joe Biden saying stupid things doesn't matter because Joe Biden probably won't even be the nominee. I mean, we heard him slip up. We'll see what happens. They say Gray's remarks came as protests, some of which have turned to violent riots, have swept the nation. This we know. Biden faced swift backlash in May when he told Charlemagne the God, you ain't black if you're having a hard time figuring out whether to support him or Trump. However, Biden did release a statement on Sunday calling protests against Floyd's death utterly American, but condemning needless destruction and violence. I can respect that. You know, I can't respect. After Biden got called out, you know what he said? He said Charlemagne the God was being a wise guy. He said that he was setting him up and he took the bait or whatever. Dude, you know what, man? That's why she's dragging Joe Biden. Dude's a moron. He's a complete moron. Look, Charlemagne the God brought up a very important point about getting real things for our community. And I'll tell you what, man, probably the worst timing imaginable for Joe Biden. At a time when this guy, Charlemagne the God, is saying, I got some real questions for you, Joe Biden throws out this ridiculous attempt at humor, I guess. And then we get the George Floyd case. Man, Biden, you probably could have answered that. But instead, Joe Biden comes out and says, well, you know, he was a wise guy, so I was a wise guy back. What? Telling a presidential candidate, I've got real questions for you. It's not about Trump. And then saying that's being a wise guy, that is dismissive, that is condescending. Yeah, Joe Biden, look, I don't want to play these stupid games where everybody calls everybody else racist, but Joe Biden is an idiot. That's to say the least. They say, quote, I guess it's from Biden, every person of conscience can understand the rawness of the trauma people of color experience in this country, from the daily indignities to the extreme violence, like the horrific killing of George Floyd. Protesting such brutality is right and necessary. It's utterly American. It's an utterly American response. But burning down communities and needless destruction is not. Violence that endangers lives is not. Violence that guts and shutters businesses that serve the community is not. Now, you know what, man? I'm glad to hear him say it. Although I don't think he actually said it. It was a statement from his camp, so it was probably some young aide working for his campaign. But at least we're getting statements like this. Look, man, the protests are utterly American. The autopsy report came out. Compression on Floyd's neck, cut off the blood flow to his brain. That's what killed him. Sitting on that, holding him down, it shut his brain down. He died. That's what happened. And so we want justice. We all do. These other cops who were kneeling on him as well, they could have stopped it. And the responsibility is on all of them. So the first cop, I'm not going to say his name, he gets arrested, charged with third-degree murder. The other cops were saying he's not resisting. The other cops were saying there's no pulse. Dude wouldn't get up. At some point, the other cops have to, be responsible as well. I don't think these other cops are going to get murder charges, nor do I think they should. But there should be something. Look, man, we got to be honest about the situation. We can call out that one cop who put his knee on his neck. The other cops playing along and complicit deserve some kind of penalty, in my opinion. I don't think it should be as severe as, putting him in prison for murder charges, but something probably criminal, I would say. We can't have this system where cops watch another cop killing a guy and just do nothing about it. The responsibility has to be on all of them. The other cop should have stood up and said, "That's on you if you want to do this," because you're going to end up being responsible for this. Maybe manslaughter. Maybe it was the actions they took contributed to this death, to the death of this man. But anyway, look, I'm getting off track. We're supposed to be ragging on Biden, right? Look, it's a fair comment. He said the act of protesting should never be allowed to overshadow the reasons we protest. It should not drive people away from the just cause that protest is meant to advance. It's actually quite a brilliant statement. I wonder who wrote it. It wasn't Joe Biden. I'm sorry. That's the point. We can agree with that. It's on point. But it wasn't written by this man. And let's be honest about it, okay? Joe Biden's not all there. He's being dragged by the activists because he doesn't know what he's doing. And he's tried playing up this idea that because he won in South Carolina, that means he's the speaker on behalf of this community. He's not. They don't like him. Look, I'm saying the activists don't like him, right? The far left doesn't like him. You can't just put a blanket statement out that, and the Democrats have tried doing this. And the media pundits have said the same thing. Nah, man. I don't know what Biden's game is, but what is it? The National Review? Is that what it is? Yeah, the Review. Did I call him the Examiner earlier? The Review understands. Biden is just saying nonsense. Unfortunately, some people will agree with it. I got another segment coming up for you in a few minutes. Stick around. I will see you all shortly.